I'm Ethan. I love muzzleloading, and this is my friend Max. Max was born in 1941 to a family farm in Indiana. I've heard conflicting stories on its cause, but Max was born with a bum leg and had to wear a reinforced boot his entire life, but you wouldn't know it unless you looked real hard. Max never let anything slow him down. His time as a boy was filled with being outside, working on tractors and cars, never really taking no for an answer. In school, Max tried out for every sports team every year. He never could play for the team, but I'm told he was a proud team manager. In Max's 20s, the Vietnam War broke out, and much like he did in high school, Max tried to enlist with every single branch of the American military. He had grown up with stories of World War II and had spent a lot of time with those who had returned after. Max wanted to do his part, but was turned away from every branch, not for a lack of trying. If you would ask Max about this, he'd give you a sly little smile and say, "I made 'em all tell me no." Max will tell you that he's never had much money. He'd worked hard and saved for what he could. With a wife, kids, and multiple jobs, he made it work. He hunted, fished, and worked on nights and weekends with the local farmers to make ends meet. I've even seen photographs of Max driving a motorcycle 50 miles in the snow to and from work. Whether to save money or prove he could do it, I'm not sure. In the 1960s, Max's can-do attitude would find a new home in American history. This is where Max's story and mine, well, my grandfather's, would cross. Max loved to read, and he'd come across something that got him onto muzzleloaders. And when Max got onto something, he was into it full bore and then some. After shaking the trees of northern Indiana, someone put him onto my grandfather, Harold Yazel, as one of the local muzzleloading guys. Max popped into my grandfather's shop one day and never stopped. He would later pop into my father's, and then to my shop on a weekly basis to shoot the breeze and talk muzzleloading. In 1962, Max took his first trip to Friendship, Indiana, to the home of the National Muzzleloading Rifle Association. He didn't know it at the time, but Max had arrived as part of a wave of muzzleloading fever as it swept the nation, and it would change his life forever. You see, at the time, muzzleloading was the thing. It had everything you could want. You could camp, you could shoot, you could hang out with your buddies, all the things we do today. But like many when they start, Max thought that he was the only one. There he bought his first rifle, horn, and a set of clothes, and he was off. Max became what he would call a buckskinner. He relished in the idea of being a mountain man, on his own in the wilderness with his rifle and his patch, and thousands of miles of untouched timber between him and anyone else. Buckskinners were part of the larger rendezvous scene at the time. Rendezvous were loosely based on the annual gatherings of the fur trade in the early 19th century, taking inspiration from movies like Jeremiah Johnson and The Mountain Men. These groups would often take an American Western bent, regardless of geographic location. The real draw for Max was how active one could be as a buckskinner. You can believe me or not, but much of our modern-day active or challenge shooting competitions are based on the rendezvous of the 70s and the 80s. For these mountain men, it wasn't a shooting competition if you weren't running through the woods, shooting on the clock, throwing tomahawks, splitting balls, and starting fires with flint and steel. For really lack of a better way to put it, being a mountain man was the place where you could be a man's man and test your mettle. And Max relished in these events, and he worked his way up the ranks of events all over, bum leg and all. After meeting like-minded friends, Max became one of the founding members of the Widowmakers, a group born in 1974 as muzzleloading and rendezvous continued to rise in their popularity. The Widowmakers became nationally known as a group of good-shooting, fun-having rabble-rousers who didn't shy away from telling stories and the legends that came from them. In conjunction with the Widowmakers and the rendezvous scene, Max loved to go on what we now call historic treks. Max and his friends would hike miles into the woods with nothing but their 18th century gear and survive as long as they could. Through rain, sleet, and snow, you could find Max tucked under a rock somewhere waiting out a storm. Never complaining, always cheerful. At the time, these treks were growing in popularity. They became the thing to do, and at the NMLRA, some of the founding members of the buckskinner movement would go on to start a tradition of tracing the historic steps of our forefathers through a trek, ending at the NMLRA grounds in southern Indiana. The times were different then, though. People were friendlier and generally a little more understanding of a bunch of weirdos wanting to hike through the woods like long hunters and mountain men. At the time, the group made agreements with all the landowners on the trail and got permission to cross through the old-growth woods from the Ohio River to Friendship, Indiana, to follow in history's footsteps. One year, it's time for Max to set out and do his trek. He loaded up his pack and set off. You were telling Dad a story the last time you were
yeah, he wanted to get your story about the walk from the Ohio up to
the Greenville Treaty Line.
Would it be okay if I recorded it? Or would you rather not?
Well, I don't care, but I don't know if I have all the... I'd have to have more of the facts. I mean, I can't remember.
Well, that's okay.
Vickery started it, Max Vickery.
Uh-huh.
Like I said, Max Vickery was the ringleader behind this. And the Greenville Treaty Line started after at the Ohio River at a little town, if I remember right, called Lamb, Indiana. And it went from there up through Indiana, all the way through Indiana on the northern east side of Indiana. And I can't remember, it went into Ohio, and I'm not sure how far it went. But so Max Vickery, he came up with this idea that we would start and walk from Lamb, Indiana, which is from there to Friendship, which is 30 miles.
Okay.
And you followed old dried up waterways, and they give you, and you go through in groups, and you had to make a series of tokens, they called them. I don't remember, 4 or 5 tokens, and they had to give you a topographical map, and they would mark on this topographical map where you pick up. There were always tokens out ahead of you, and so you would pick up a token and put yours down.
Okay.
Same way, and that's how you did that. And so we went through. I went with another guy, Dick Coppice from Atwood. 2 of us went. It was a 2-day deal. And I believe that Vickery, he did it in 1 day one time.
Wow.
He
That's
was
really
hustling.
pushing it.
Vicker's tough guy. Back
Yes.
then.
And,
Because I only really remember Max Vickery as just kind of an old guy now.
yeah.
I was really at the end of...
Well, see, he didn't, he started a lot of the primitive shooting there at one time.
Yeah.
But anyway, it was some extremely rough territory down in there south of Friendship.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's so hilly.
Yeah. And, of course, so we had a good time doing that. And like I said, I took a guy went before. I talked to him. They said, "Oh, yeah, boy, you gotta be careful. You gotta watch out for snakes." And I thought, "Ooh, I don't like snakes too well." I didn't then. I thought I'll take my 22. I had a little 22 Remington. I'm not remember which model it was. Old bolt action. I want to take that thing. I drug that thing 30 miles. Never seen one snake. And crawled over about 500,000 barbed wire fences.
Oh, I bet.
And then they had, also on the map, had places marked where you could stop. They called them water stops. Uh-huh. And they had made arrangement with the local landowner, farmer, whoever, to stop there, and you could get water from them, And, of course, I said that was in '67, I think we went. And some of those old farmers, they had these old pitcher pumps where you cranked it. Uh-huh. I don't know if you ever seen those. Mm-hmm. Got a crank on them, endless chain, and they got little buckets on them. They're so far apart.
Okay.
Those have a name on them. Every one of them pumps has a name on it down there around Friendship. I can't think of that name right now.
They're shallow well pumps.
Yeah, they go to a cistern.
Yeah, and that's how they got their water up, is with one of them. But...
And you had a water stop.
Yeah. Yeah, we had a water stop. That was where I shouldn't tell that about the girl.
Yeah, tell that one. That was a good one.
No, we stopped, and Dick was tired, and I said, of course, I was pretty young then, in '67, and I said,
how old were you in '67?
Well, I'm 78 now, so figure it out. You're better at math than I am.
Okay.
So it'd be 27.
27.
Yeah, anyway,
so you're about my age.
Yeah. We were, I was, like I said, we were both young guys. Anyway, I walked up to this back side of these people's houses, and they had a wooden fence, around their yard. And I just walked up there, and I didn't see anybody around. And I opened the gate, and as soon as I opened the gate, there was just a young lady laying on a blanket, suntanning with in her natural status, And as soon as she heard the gate squeak, she looked up and saw me and jumped and ran towards the house. And I just stopped for some water, So she finally put some clothes on, come back out, and says, "Well," she says, pumps out there. You just got to crank it to get the water. It's okay.
So were you in period dress?
No. Some of the guys did go in period dress, and some of them carried. They'd go in the fall of the year, and during squirrel hunting season.
Okay.
And they would, go squirrel hunting on the way. No, we went regular clothes. Like I said, I carried that old stupid 22 all that far, but that was and up and down, and I never went up and down. And then this one guy we stopped at, and of course he'd had other people stop her before, and he said, "Yeah," he said, "Now I'll give you a shortcut here. You can follow this power line for a while." He said it cut off 5-10 miles anyway. I thought, well, holy crap, that was worse than the trail was on. I think he just did that to aggravate people. But that was, they had cistern. One guy had a cistern. He had a rope and a bucket, and that's how he got his water out of that cistern. He just throwed the bucket down, and he'd bring it about.
Gem. Those are gem pumps.
Yeah.
They always have the word gem on
Yep, I've never seen them.
Yeah.
They're probably antique now. But, yeah, that was, anyway, we ended up where the powder magazine used to be at Friendship. You probably don't remember where it was. Your dad does, I know.
Yeah, I know.
That's where you ended up at. And I think we come out about maybe 25 yards one way or the other of hitting right on the X,
Really?
And we'd never looked at a topographical map. Now, if you've been in the service, you know what they are, because we neither one of us been in the service. But we got where we could figure it out. It shows all the contours and elevations and stuff like that. It's pretty neat map, really. But yeah, that was quite a deal. Yeah, it took us 2 days.
I bet 30 miles in that terrain. I mean, that's no joke.
Yeah, we hoofed her right along. We didn't waste too much time, I guess. Like I said, I think they had 5 token stops, if I could remember. I'd have to look at one of the old muzzle blasts, and it tells in there.
Okay.
But Victor was the one that come up with that. They tried to resurrect it. I know this I think in the late 70s. Some of the guy wanted to do it again. And
there's a wolf hide down there in the museum that has all the names of the guys that made the trek.
Yeah, that was the other thing. When it got done, you signed a wolf hide. It still hangs it's still in the educational building, isn't it?
Yeah, it's in the Ed building. There's a little museum room in the Ed building.
They tried to resurrect it, but I don't remember who was heading it up in the late 70s, but by that time, people were so worried about trespassing, and they couldn't get permission from landowners to go across their land, I don't know. There was a lot of guys, and a lot of guys went 2 and 3 times.
Really? It sounds like fun.
Yeah, it was when you were young,
Yeah.
It was neat country, and like I said, you follow these old waterways most of the time, and these people out of Cincinnati were buying property then, and they were building log cabins and fixing up old houses along that creeks and stuff all the way,
Like some before and many after, Max thrived on the trek, enjoying every moment in the woods, and according to him, it's about as close as he ever got to living in the past. Max's name is still scribed onto the original wolf skin that now resides at the NMLRA Museum in Friendship, Indiana. You'll find Max's name alongside his contemporaries like Alan Kuhn and Max Vickery. Max had a few names on the rendezvous scene. To the Widowmakers, he was Cripple Creek, and to other he was Many Rifles on account of his never-ending hunt for the next gun. This hunt would continue well into my time, with Max asking me if I had ever seen or heard of anything close to what he was hunting that month. Max would explain this hunt for a rifle like this. See, I'm left-handed, and I shoot left-handed, so even when I started, I needed a custom gun. There just weren't many options out there for a lefty. This rationale of needing a custom gun drove Max to own, according to Lizard, quote, more flintlocks than all of us combined. It was always fun to see what Max would be hunting. One morning, Max would come into the shop with a box and a new rifle, one he'd been talking about for a year. He'd show it off, talk about the maker, the parts, and where the wood came from. He'd shoot it, get it shooting, maybe take it hunting, but then I'd just stop hearing about it. And sooner or later, Max would come in with a book or a magazine clipping about something, usually an odd niche flintlock where less than 10 were built by some crazy German gunsmith in the 18th century, and Max would be off on another hunt. Again, as Max would put it, he didn't have much, but he loved his rifles. Max would travel to events for years, haggling over parts, making trades, and working odd jobs to gather the pieces for his next gun. I'd ask him from time to time, "How many guns are you putting together, Max?" And he'd just smile. In time, buckskinning changed as all things do. Culture shifted and focus rolled from one thing to another. Much of buckskinning culture would stay in the West. Popular culture like the 1992 adaptation of The Last of the Mohicans and Mel Gibson's The Patriot would shift the historical focus of the eastern United States to the 18th century. Max and the Widowmakers would do the same, transitioning from buckskin-clad mountain men to wool and linen marksmen of the eastern woods. And like the culture, Max's life changed too. Through his journey, he would lose an unborn child, a wife to illness, and later a daughter too. Max was never really dealt a good hand in the game of life, but he always played with a smile. When I was a kid, Max and many of his friends were legends, larger than life. To me, they were folk heroes like Boone and Crockett. I fell asleep around many a campfire hearing stories of the Widowmakers and their adventures in days gone by. In his life, Max would travel around a lot, but he ended up back here on a small plot of land with a house, an old barn, and his muzzleloaders. Each fall, he'd come to the farm and ask if he could hunt our little woods, and each year we'd say, "Yes, of course, Max." October would roll around, and Max would come out and move his tree stands around to a new spot that he was sure would put him in the path of a big bruiser. Later, Max would bring a homemade blind to the woods so he didn't have to climb. A plywood box sat on an old trailer axle, just large enough to get his flintlock rifle into. With a thermos of coffee and a heater in there, we would joke that he's running a hotel, not hunting. Every now and then, Max would connect with a deer, but much like his never-ending hunt for the next flintlock, Max didn't often find the deer he was looking for. What Max really enjoyed was the hunt.
Nice guy came down here turkey hunt.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah.
They were out last night south of the house.
Oh,
Really?
there's a ton hanging out here right now.
I seen some there come out of my swamp there the other day. They's all hens, though. I didn't see any jakes or gobblers. I thought I might try to come over once or twice. I got a muzzleloading turkey gun, 20 gauge, yeah. It's got a jug choke. It's jug choke. So
Okay.
Shoots pretty tight. Some of them, mine is out towards the end of the barrel quite a ways. I've seen some where they've been back in the barrel a little ways. I'm not sure what the method is there. When I had that 20 gauge devil from India at Flint, it shot 19 gauge wads.
That sounds kind of odd.
Mike Eater always says that very few of those guns are what they think that what they say they are.
Yeah.
He's always saying that most of those guns are never quite what they say they are.
No. But the nicest I had a little double barrel percussion one time. It was an English gun. It was a really nice gun at one time. It had been kind of abused. Mm-hmm. It was a 16 gauge. It was profusely engraved. The guy's name was Green out of Canterbury, if I remember right. It had platinum blowout plugs on the.
Oh, really?
Wow.
Nice gun, then.
And that thing, it was quick. I mean, it was as quick as any modern shotgun. It come in a case. I bought it down at Dick Sheets's.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was the case was everything wasn't all there. You know, it didn't have all the accoutrements in it, but it did have the case.
Wow.
And but somebody used it for a hammer, the stock. Tried to pound nails with it, and the wood part.
Why?
Who knows?
So many of them guns have such weird abuse on them.
Oh yeah, but I killed a lot of quail and woodcock with it, and the stock had been repaired before I got it, and then it cracked again, and I had some guy in Rochester, Metzger knew him, Mike Metzger knew this guy, and he tried to repair it again, and I fell down in a hole one time down when I lived in the Carolinas and busted it again, you know. I couldn't find anybody at that time to repair it, and so I just get rid of it, you know. But it was quick. I don't, you know, they're, and when you clean it, you know, it shoots water out them vent holes, you know.
Yeah. Huh.
So then I bought one of them. That's when that Beretta had that over and under. They made an over and under.
I remember that.
What year was it they made that?
Around 2000. Is that right?
No, it was earlier. I had it.
90s?
I got it in
I don't
the.
know. I remember those.
I got it in the 80s down there.
I think Cantor had one of them. Maybe
They Beretta made it over and under percussion. Can't remember what year they made that. So and anyway, in the 80s they started to thought they'd reproduce it, you know, and they come out with it. Ricky Roberts, you know, he bought one. You could buy it in different configurations. You could buy it as a kit form, put together, come with a case and all the accoutrements. There's several different ways. Ricky, he bought the high dollar one. I think it was about $1,200 then in the 80s. That was a lot of money.
Yeah.
And of course, I didn't want to spend that much, so I bought one that was put together. It was $185, I think.
Wow.
But it had a problem with the bottom barrel, and I could never get this thing to work right. And then after I got rid of it, then I finally discovered that somebody told me what you had to do to it, you know, because it didn't line up right, you know.
something about that bottom barrel didn't fire right, did it?
Yeah, it would.
It had an issue.
It had the locks and stuff. It had good locks on it, but it had the barrel bands that held the barrels on, you know, or pieces of metal and they were engraved. They were kind of cheesy looking. I always thought,
Yeah, that was the cheesy part of that gun, really.
Yeah,
the barrel band.
Because the wood on it was nice and everything else. I sold it to a guy in Michigan, I think. Yeah, I had a lot of fun with that little 16 gauge.
Oh yeah, it sounds slick.
Woodcock's fun to hunt, you know.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Hunt those a lot down south, don't they?
Yeah.
Woodcock.
There's a few around here.
Yeah,
Used to be.
around here.
I don't think of there being enough to hunt around here.
We used to hunt them here. A friend of mine, he hunted with a modern gun, and he liked to hunt them. And then we got down there in the Carolinas. There was a lot of them down there, you know. We hunted on the Enoree River down there in the Carolinas. That was the name of the river.
Okay.
Enoree River. They go up, and they kind of go straight up, and then they'll kind of act. They don't actually stand still in the air, but it kind of looks like it. And then they'll take off. And they don't fly very far.
Okay.
They're not like a quail. You know, a quail will go a little ways sometimes before they go back down, but they'll just go a little ways and they go back down again. You know.
Yeah, they're kind of a weird bird. They look like they're made out of spare parts.
Yeah.
Okay.
They got their beaks real dark.
Oh.
Real dark breast. You just eat the breast like a quail. You know, that's all I eat.
Yeah, that's all there is.
There ain't much there, you know, but.
Did I tell you I kicked a quail up?
No.
How long had that been? A month ago? Or more?
I thought that was last year.
No, it was this spring.
Oh, was it?
I was walking down there along the road, and right there where you go in the tree planting, and old Covey went off into the tree planting there.
Huh.
Yeah, it must have been 16, 17.
Wow, that's a big covey.
Yeah, it was a bunch of them. It shocked me. I mean, I haven't seen a quail in so darn long.
Really? I had a little small covey there behind the house for a while. 5, 6 birds at most. And then I didn't see them anymore. I don't know whether the coyotes got them. Yeah.
Well, this winter was mild, you know, so if there were any around, they should have been all right this year.
But I always got a kick out of hunting quail. I said if I ever got where I didn't want to hunt quail, I'd hang my guns up, but I never did that. I never got to that point. I always liked to hunt them. Just got too old to walk. You know, it's a lot of walking.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of walking.
What's it like to hunt quail? Just a lot of walking, or
Yeah.
If you don't have a good dog.
Yeah.
I never had a dog.
Yeah, we had some good dogs. But still, you know, you do a lot of walking in a day's time.
Yeah.
We used to go up into Michigan and go grouse hunting, sharp tails and stuff like that. That was a lot of fun too.
Okay.
That always looked like a good time.
Yep.
Yeah, hunting grouse always looked like a good time.
Yep. But I loved it. I killed some of the last true wild pheasants that around Atwood there had been killed for a long time. That was in the 70s sometime. Yeah, there were still a few actual, not the ones that turned loose, but
right.
And I shot one of them and killed it with that 16 gauge.
Really?
Yeah.
When I came back to the farm after college, I was fortunate enough to be able to reconnect with Max. Not as my grandfather's friend or my father's friend, but as my friend. Max liked to stop by the shop and see what kind of kit I was building and what kind of bag I was making, and he'd bring what he was working on too. As time passed, Max shot a little less and talked a little more. He traded in his buckskins for a new chunk gun built by Alan Hunter, and he spent more time in camp than he did on the range, but he enjoyed every minute of it. Max had been welcomed into the community and did his best to give back. As he was wheeling and dealing for the parts for his next gun, he'd also be buying parts for another, one that he would never shoot. For as long as I've known him, Max would buy enough parts every year to have a rifle built to be given away to a child at the National Muzzleloading Rifle Association primitive range. Max would say, "I can't build it myself, but if you can find someone to build this, I'll keep buying parts." The hard part about being friends with guys like Max is watching them get old. Max and I kept planning to go hunting together with our flintlocks, but he up and got sick. Too sick to hunt 4 years in a row. I'd stop by to see him now and then and give him an update on the bucks of the woods and how the turkey population was going. And of course, an update on my last range day. We found him an electric scooter so he can get around at events. You'd think he was a race car driver to see him scooting around in that thing. He hung a pack basket on the front and had it all set up to carry his rifle and horn. Later would start the dreadful habit of dropping things off like old guys do, acting like they keep forgetting to take things back. A bum pacemaker nearly killed him one year, but he bounced back like he always did, and we made plans to go hunting that fall, just as we always did. Max passed away in June of 2022, and as I walked into the church that morning, I was greeted by hundreds of lives he had touched, just as he had touched mine. Max wasn't just a kind soul in muzzleloading. He was a kind soul everywhere, and the room glowed with his warmth. The funny thing is, everyone I talked to at the funeral said the same thing. He'd be real upset about causing a fuss during friendship. I made my way to a pew that morning and sat in a row of buckskinners. The legends left from my boyhood stories. Gary, Chuck, Alan, and Lizard all shared stories about Max that morning. Those fit to be printed or recorded have been shared with you here today. Others are better told around the campfire. Max's tradition of buying parts for the kids' rifles continues to this day, with an annual collaboration at the NMLRA Primitive Range to make sure a child goes home with a muzzleloader that they can cherish forever. I'll be taking Max's pouch and horn hunting this year, using the last rifle he watched me build. I hope you're enjoying the long hunt, Max.
I was deer hunting in West Virginia one time, and I was sitting on the side of this small hill, mountain, whatever they call it, and they'd logged off a lot of stuff, and there was a big stump about 40 or 50 yards out in front of me there, and I was sitting there watching for deer, and all of a sudden I heard these turkeys come flying in, and his turkey lit right on that stump, about 40 yards in front of me. I almost shot him, because they didn't have a season. They had a season, but it wasn't open then. I didn't do that.
Dad always told about going back here one morning, deer hunting, and he'd hunt right down here. There's right behind the house there with the pond. You just get back there, and he had a bucket over there by that one cottonwood, a big cottonwood tree, and there's a trail comes off the neighbor right there, and the deer come on to me and go down across the creek right there. And he hunted there a lot of times, and he was talking about, I said, back there early in the morning, he said, I'm sitting there at that tree, and he said, I just know there's something moving. And just as it got light, he said, them turkeys, he was under a roost tree, and he said, them turkeys started coming out of that tree. And he said, man, I didn't realize how big those things were. He said, they start coming out of that tree. He said, man, they were just everywhere there.
Well, you talk about big, those, you think of the name of them here in a minute. They're all over now. They don't have a season for them. Real long-legged. They're about like a goose. They look like
sandhill crane.
Yeah, sandhill crane. Mm-hmm. I never realized they were that big. One time I was riding my four-wheeler around, and I see jump one off a nest. Holy crap! Them things. They'd make a racket back of me. There's a couple, 2-3 ponds back in behind me there. They put in when they put that wildlife thing in back there. And there's quite a few back in there. I don't even have a goose gun anymore. I had one, but I got rid of it. I killed a lot of geese out in the Chesapeake Bay with it. I had a 10-gauge double barrel muzzleloader. cap percussion, But it had a choke. It had a modified in one barrel, and the other barrel was a little bit tighter than cylinder bore. But I killed a lot of geese with it.
Really?
They got to hunt snow geese out there then later years, and I killed quite a few snow geese. But I couldn't kill them only about 50 yards, about as much as I could get them with, But I see my brother. He had a modern shotgun. He had an Ithaca Mag 10 gauge, and I seen him kill a goose one time. And I had my rangefinder with me, and I ranged at 80 yards. He killed a goose. 80 yards was that sucker.
10 gauge, you said? Man, that's getting out there.
Yeah, I couldn't never get. And I had and before they went to lead or steel shot, I had an original 10 gauge double barrel. I shot, you could shoot lead shot.
Okay.
And I think I killed one about 40 yards with it one time. I did shoot a goose with a flintlock shotgun. I borrowed one off of somebody at Friendship, Steve Baxter. He had a single barrel 10 gauge with screw in chokes.
Okay.
And I borrowed it one time just to see how it was,
You hunted out west too, hunted
Yeah.
muzzleloader.
Yeah.
What kind of stuff did you hunt out west?
Deer. Mostly just deer. Antelope.
Mm-hmm.
Your uncle, RK, he went with us one time.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. We went out, him and I, and Mike Ginger.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
And
Ginger?
Dick Goffus. We went out there, and RK had an old, well, it wasn't old, it was a fairly new pickup truck then, a Ford 6-cylinder, and had one of them little Scotty campers.
Had a Scotty camper. Yeah, I remember the Scotty camper.
And we took that out there. We had a lot of fun. We killed a couple of deer. I killed that. First time I killed that was the first time I ever killed an antelope with a flintlock rifle.
Really?
And I shot at a big buck deer, and I thought I hit him hard, knocked him down, and like an idiot, I didn't reload, and I walked over there. He jumped up, and I hit him in a dadgum antler and just knocked him cuckoo for a while.
Kind of rung his bell.
Kind of goes along with your earshot.
Really? But it did kill an antelope that year. That was.
Huh.
Yeah, Dad always told there about going to Friendship with Arky to, I think, a turkey shoot or something, one of the offshoots. They take that little trailer, Arky had a little Scotty, and they were going down the road, and wheel come off the trailer. They found the wheel, and they walked back up the road, and they found 2 lug nuts, and got enough lug nuts to get it back on there. They could get home.
That thing had if I remember right, when you went inside, and it had kind of a sunken floor in it.
Yeah, I think so.
And we were doing our own cooking, and had some trouble with the gas stove. Had a leak in it somewhere. That's what happened. And they turned it on. They messed with it, and that gas got down in there and laid that pool down in that thing. And when they finally touched the stove off, they had the door. Good thing the door was open because a couple of them went zailing out through the door.
Kind of lit the whole floor up, did it?
It was pretty shot. Yeah, that poor old Ford, it had a 6-cylinder. It's about all they could do to pull that camper out there.
Oh, yeah, getting in the mountains there and stuff.
Ginger, yeah. Of course, he wasn't much of a hunter, but he was big in Boy Scouts or something at one time. And I know we got all the way out there, and we hunted a couple days. He said, "You guys got to take me to the airport. I got to fly back to Fort Wayne. They're big super duper convention." I said, "Stay here, hunt with us, die." So we had to take him to the airport.
Who was that?
Ginger. He's gone now.
Yeah, Ginger's gone, but
he used to have a shoot. He lived up there outside of New Haven, Fort Wayne, at the time, and he had a little place there. He had a few acres, and they had a shoot there all the time. And I used to go with your granddad and Arky up there all the time, meat shoots. I never brought much meat home. They always brought some meat home, but I carried mine with 2 hands. I remember they had I don't know who the guy was, but they had a little boy. God, he was about maybe 3 or 4 years old, and they had one of them little harnesses on them, And they had a little orchard there right by the shooting range, and so they had a rope, and they put that rope on that harness and tied that rope on that little apple tree, and they'd go off and shoot and let the little kid, he'd run around there and just get all tangled up,
Well, thank you, Max. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
I wrote this pretty soon after Max had passed, and I couldn't bring myself to record it. So to Max, I'm sorry for the delay, and to his friends, I'm sorry that I didn't recognize him sooner. I'd like to remind everybody once again to record as many stories as they can with their friends and with your loved ones. The pieces of audio I've shared with you from Max are some of the only pieces I have with him. I hope that you've enjoyed hearing just one of his stories from his own mouth. Once again, I'm Ethan. I love muzzleloading. Thank you so much for listening. We'll catch you next time.